views and opinions expressed on Geeks Under the Influence are that of the panelists and not of our sponsors, Amazon.com and TeePublic. Parental discretion is advised.
But I will give Tolkien the literary master that he was his due with that. Like,
it's Tolkien.
And it's Smaug. Fuck off.
It's Leviosa. Sorry, I had to.
How did Viggo Mortensen say Legolas? Like he had the weirdest accent in the fucking movies. Peter Jackson had a really good base to go from, because if you go through and read the Silmarillion and the Fellowship of the Rings and the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit, it is so rich in all aspects of the story, the light, the dark, all the horror aspects are there, written for him, and he is just the master that was able to bring it to screen. You know what I mean? Because Tolkien was very, very, like, the way he describes Gollum in The Hobbit, like, it is horrifying. Mm-hmm. If you are a horror reader and you just see those elements, like, there's so much there.
I've got to say, just based on what you were saying about not being a really big fantasy person, but you are into sci-fi and horror, I'm not a big fantasy person, I'm not a big sci-fi person, and I'm not a big horror person, and I'm a huge Lord of the Rings person. And I think that that's a credit to the way that Tolkien wrote these characters, because if there's one thing I am, it's a feelings ass bitch. I love a relationship, I love some mushy friendship, feel good vibes, I love hope. And that is really what these stories provide for me.
You like a fellowship.
I love a fellowship, if you will.
Oh.
I love Two Towers, and I love A Return of the King. If there's one thing about me. I don't know, he transcends genre in that way to me.
Hold on. So, does Two Towers and that frame mean double stuff?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yep. Thank you for understanding my double entendre.
I think in modern terms, it's called pulling an Eiffel Tower.
Eiffel Tower.
Pulling a Sauron Tower.
Yeah,
he was ahead of his time.
If you're double stuff in a book nerd, it's called a twin tower or two towers. Twin towers is different.
Yeah,
Tolkien,
oh God, no.
Total freak. If you really read between the lines, freaky shit.
Yeah, but I think there is something to be said that, we're talking about the biggest fandoms of all. The one fandom to rule them all. There's Lord of the Rings, there's Star Wars, there's Star Trek. What a lot of them share is that there is this balance between different types of genre. Like, Lord of the Rings is high fantasy, but it does have horror elements to it. Star Wars is sci-fi, but it does have fantasy elements to it. There is a little bit of crossover between the different genres that makes it more approachable and more relatable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. There's a total balance in these stories, and honestly, to have that balance right off the bat, because if you want to look at it in true light, like, Lord of the Rings original trilogy is right next to the original Star Wars trilogy as far as storytelling.
The Lord of the Rings nerds got on a fucking nitrous rocket ship when Peter Jackson did those books where they were in the back of the room.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord of the Rings. Oh, Lord of the Rings. And then Peter Jackson put out the movies and they're like, whoa! And then they were all of a sudden in front.
Exactly. And the fact that it's known because the fact that Kevin Smith could use that as a joke where it's nerds fighting their nerddoms in Clerks 2 was amazing, right? Where in the first Clerks he just had Star Wars, which was literally the only trilogy of that time. But if you look at the source material, Tolkien was the first.
Yep.
He started that way back when
that's
he
even
wrote.
A joke in Marvel where there was one point where Bucky talks about where he had read Lord of the Rings when it first came out.
Exactly. Tolkien was way back. Hey guys, I did this for a while. Hey,
in the fucking 30s and shit. Yeah,
exactly. So it's just
Yeah. Awesome. So I am interested to see how we feel about a modern take on just the fucking basically footnotes of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Just to step it forward. We're talking about Rings of Power on this episode of Geeks Under the Influence, the new series from Amazon, where it tries to tell the prequel basically what happened before the story that everybody knows from Middle Earth, and how they're setting everything up for the story that we know, and if it did right by that universe, or if it did wrong, or what we would want added to it or subtracted from it on this episode of Geeks Under the Influence. All things Rings of Power. Welcome. Woo!
Woo! Ring-a-ding-ding.
Things at work and shall be again. A changing of the guards, the tides marching in. You think you can hold out, but you know you're wrong. So you better join us now. You better do it fast, or you will be dead. Lie down, number gun, this is compromise the dead. You play to take.
There's so much to get into on this, so I'm going to be very quick on the intros, and then we're going to get to Audrey, who had a hand raised.
Yeah.
if you remember your point.
Yeah.
First off, of course, my cohort on Deeply Upsetting, we've got Amy Bogarde here.
Hello.
Hello. We're gonna be releasing episodes in the not too distant future.
We are, yes. We've been on a hiatus. You can totally blame me. We'll get into it on the show.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Somebody
Reason
was
to listen.
getting some learning done.
Yeah,
it delayed some releases. Next up, anytime we have a fantasy show episode, we have this next panelist showing up being like, well, actually, and just schools the ever living fuck out of the rest of us.
Oh, can't wait.
What did we decide your last name was on the last?
Atreides.
Atreides.
Yeah.
We got Audrey Atreides here.
Yeah. After, how many years I've been on, I finally decided.
You finally get a nickname on the show. Yeah.
I've just been just Audrey for a long time.
We were talking before recording is that like the first time that Amy was on an episode was actually an episode that you were on as well. So there's this nice kind of coming back together again happening. Speaking of coming together, it's somebody that I come together with on a regular basis. My cohort in coming and on the network and this show.
Yep.
Lowdown Brown MacGyver.
Dry jacks, people.
Dry jacks.
It's all about the dry jacks. What's going on? I'm excited to talk about this. This is actually a show that I passed over to watch another fantasy show, but like when I got into this show, it took me a second because I was like, I know the source material, I've read it, and I'm like, okay, I understand what they're doing here, but like, yeah, it definitely got me, and there was the actors had a lot to do with that, I think. The screenplay is good, the writing's good, but for me, I think a lot of it has to do with the acting choices, because there's a lot of no names or people that have been involved in the industry for a while, but they haven't had anything huge to really let them. This is like the biggest thing they've done, so to say.
I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily.
No. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah,
I think they did a lot for it.
I think if you had one big name or a bunch of big names, it might have detracted from the
like the movies where there's just tons of big names.
Yeah,
but then again, it was Peter Jackson, so he knew how to crack that whip and keep them all in check.
Yep.
True.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it was kind of like I had to separate that because I was just used to it. It's grandiose and like everybody in it is larger than life pretty much for the most part, right? I mean,
you've got Mid-Journey AI Liam Neeson as the head of the elves. You've got what was the other elf?
The guy that I thought was Grey Worm the whole time.
The guy that you thought was Grey Worm as the other elf that was there. There was the other elf that I said was the other British actor.
Colin Firth.
The Colin Firth elf that is friends with the dwarf.
Oh my God!
Oh,
holy shit!
Okay, wait. Let me extrapolate on this.
100%. No, like I now I'm looking at his thing of his face. I'm like, fuck me. That's
Colin Firth.
No, but
Okay,
tell me
thank
that's
you.
not Colin Firth had a baby with Huey from The Boys,
wait. Are we talking about Elrond?
right?
Because
No,
not
Elrond
Elrond.
is 23-year-old
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson put through an AI.
you know where
like-
you've seen that guy before?
Mm.
Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yes,
As
he
who?
played a young Ned Stark.
No, yes, he did.
Oh.
Holy shit! But he had long hair. That's what threw you off because he had long hair back. Yeah, no
Yep.
shit.
Neddard
Fuck yeah.
Aloysius Stark. he
Yes.
played,
Yes.
No, now that
Wow.
as soon as you
Bringing
mentioned
his
that,
biblical
yes,
name.
like
yeah.
I knew him from somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just he had the long wig, not the
Yeah.
short cropped fucking pointy ears.
I just
Fair
when I
enough.
first saw him, I expected him to get on like a fucking arrow phone or something and be like, I have a particular set of skills that will make stealing the rings much more difficult for you.
So now we just shit canned all that. Now he's just a young Sean Bean. So whatever.
Yeah.
And the man whose people I think we saw a really early rendition of in the Rings of Power. We got Michael Bickett. We didn't really get a Hobbit, but
for
we
this
got
one,
like the
for this one, I am Mike
Harfoots.
the Harfoot Bickett.
Harfoot.
Nice.
Mike
The
Harfoot, yeah.
Harefoots.
The Harefoot.
The Harefoots,
The
yeah.
Harefoots.
That's totally like early Hobbitus,
Yep.
right? But
I like the way that they make sure that you know that it's not hobbits, is that they just don't have their hair done. Like their hair is just wild. Like they all have bedhead. That's how you know they're not hobbits. They just
all have bedhead.
they all have bedhead and like leaves in it and shit. Like that's how you can tell.
Full bird's nest.
But when
Bird's
you bring
nest.
in the
literally bird's nests in their hair.
But when you bring in the stranger and the size difference, you're like, that's a Hobbit. Yeah.
That's the one time you see the size difference, but it's because they brought the children little ones near the tall guy. You know, that's-
Yeah.
Geeks Under the Influence, GUIPodcast.com to check out all the stuff we're doing on the network. Rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah, let's get into it because
There's a lot.
there's a lot.
Yeah.
The preface of the series is that they did not have access to the Silmarillion, which is
Right.
like the kind of the tome,
The history
of,
book.
the history book of Middle Earth.
Yeah, that's literally like in Fellowship when Gandalf sees the ring after Bilbo leaves it to Frodo, he goes and literally looks through the Silmarillion to find the history of the ring. Like that's just how big and rich like that. The fact if they could get a hold of that, what they could do with the shows would be fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah.
If they could get the rights to
Absolutely.
that, because like
Oh, yeah, because there's so much they could do. They could do like a whole feature movie just about Baron and Luthien. Like that whole. Okay, I'm like putting on with the nerd glasses.
do it.
But yeah, it's just that could be a whole entire movie in itself.
Nope.
But
But after
Yeah.
watching this series, I'm almost kind of glad they didn't, because the thickness of this series, like
the
there's
scope of it.
the scope and the density of this series. There are so many names. There are so many different places that are talked about. Like I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I've not had a chance to read the books, and I will at some point, but I have not had the chance. I really enjoyed the series, but I had to
Lowdown is so upset right now.
I had to enjoy it on a very
I always assumed.
I had to enjoy it on a very basic level, only just the main storylines, because a lot of the other stuff was just being lost on me. So I can only imagine somebody that really dove into those books and knew these places, how much deeper this series went.
I'm just kind of blown away right now. But no, it's because like
Wait, I love that I'm the only person at this table that hasn't read Lord of the Rings. Like,
I
No,
mean,
it's-
yeah.
Loser.
Oh,
Fuck you.
fuck you, dude.
well, I would say it's for me, it's because it's kind of something that I relate to with my dad, is because he read The Hobbit to me and my sister when we were young. And I read it, I'm saying Harfoots. The Hobbit, I read that again in 5th grade, and then I read it again like much later in life. I actually did not read the books until after I'd seen Lord of the Rings. So I kind of went, and so my dad was like super interested in my takes and everything, and I was just like, oh, well, I never, I didn't know the story. So he got me the whole set afterwards so I could read it. So it's been like a thing that me and my dad can connect with.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's why I'm such a I'm a second generation nerd.
So I was not into Lord of the Rings whatsoever. I knew really nothing about it. My family is really not into fantasy or really anything. I brought up before that I was raised super religious, so just give me a pass on this one.
Well, fantasy. Hey,
True.
Technically,
I know, you'd think, right?
you were raised on the wrong fantasy.
Oh, the wrong fantasy. Yeah, the super boring, like guilty fantasy.
yeah.
But so when I was in high school, I went to a magnet high school for arts. And so I was in the theater program, and my theater program when I was a junior went to England. And we got to watch a bunch of West End shows. And this was right about the time that Lord of the Rings premiered on the West End Broadway. And so I got to go to the show, and I had no knowledge whatsoever of the show. And my best friend was raised on it, kind of like you. Her dad was super into it. And so she was a second generation Lord of the Rings fan. And so she had to whisper to me the entire time, because they compacted all three into one like
Oh, God.
3-hour musical,
Oh.
it didn't do very well.
So was
No.
everybody talking like micro machines? Like, oh, and then there was
Pretty much, yeah. It didn't do very well. And see, here's the sad thing is that I don't know because at the time I knew nothing about
No
it.
frame
So
of
I really
reference.
had no frame
Oh,
of
yeah,
reference.
that's-
All I
that's
know
no
is that
bueno.
during intermission I got attacked by an orc. They like sensed fear like a cat and they came to me and it was really terrible. And so I didn't get into it until way past that from like an ex-boyfriend when I was in my 20s. And then I just fell so deeply in love with everything.
No, that's awesome. I love everyone's stories about, especially about this, like, because for me it was actually I had watched and then later owned the Ralph Bakshi Rankin and Bass animated.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So they did the Hobbit first, then they did one movie, kind of like the play of the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was
Right.
like 2 hours. It was like
Yes,
for
I've
animated, it
seen
was
that.
fun, but I mean,
Right.
if that's
was
your
like
first, if that's
partially
your first viewing,
rotoscoped, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if that's your first viewing, awesome. Like, and
Yeah.
the animation is amazing. The voice acting, and they have some veteran fucking actors
Yeah.
voice acting on that. And then I loved it. And then I remember going to middle school and going to the library, and all they had was The Hobbit. And The Hobbit was the first animated movie I saw, so I picked up The Hobbit. And I'm like, oh, this is okay. And I read it and fucking loved it. And then I got into high school, 9th grade, and that library had all the other books. So then I just ran train through the trilogy, and then I kind of begrudgingly read Silmarillion, which it gets very it gets very old.
Dense.
Yeah.
Dense. It's a
dense.
lot. It's just so much information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've only been able to read like the abridged super Cliff's Note version of that. So I haven't actually read it, but I know the
gist.
basis,
Yeah.
the gist of it. And again, I've heard like, my dad talking, I had to do like a basic kind of like, okay, let me Wikipedia real quick. What are the basic things about this so I can talk to my dad before the show starts? I'm like, let me get a, synopsis real quick. So and he talked my ear off about it. So I'm like, yeah, I just kind of like,
Wash over me.
yeah, I got it. I absorbed all of it.
Yeah.
I unfortunately really didn't get into fantasy when I was younger. In my youth, my friends that read fantasy read a lot of Anne McCaffrey dragon novels. And if you remember that at all.
Yeah. Not me, but my sister was super into that.
And Lord of the Rings was one of these things that I only had a frame of reference from the Hobbit animated movie.
I love that movie so
And
much.
it was great. And I loved that. But so when I went and saw Lord of the Rings, like Fellowship of the Ring, and I was like, great, it's like The Hobbit. I didn't recognize it was two different things. And then there wasn't anything from, there was nothing. There was nothing from.
There was the ring. You had the ring.
I was like,
And
I don't
then
remember any of this.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? It took me later to find out, no, that was a different book entirely. I went, I don't have time for this at all. I had friends telling me like, no, this is really good, really good. It took a roommate to sit me down, and I'd seen Fellowship of the Ring, the theatrical version, never saw the other two until a roommate sat me down and made me watch the extended versions of all three. So I've never seen Two Towers or Return of the King in the theatrical version. I've only seen the extended versions.
You're better off.
And I'm better off. Honestly, that's the only way I want
Yeah.
to see them now.
Because, and again, this is just how much of a nerd, like, it just rubbed off on me. That was a thing. I think the first one came out when I was in high school. Yeah, so it was a big thing. We went opening night. Like, it was, got together, the family, and then one of my dad's,
The
good
drama
friends.
kids, like
Yeah, it was like,
Oh, I
yeah,
wish.
so we went opening night, like, every single time for all three of those movies.
nice.
So, yeah.
3 years back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just give a little context really quick, just in case you were wondering like where I was at when I saw this. So like I said, I got introduced to Lord of the Rings by an ex-boyfriend. I was 20 and he and I went to Florida for a vacation, and it was naturally Florida. And so it poured the entire time we were there. So we hit up our local Blockbuster, and I think we'd been together for like 6 months at the time. So we decided what we were going to do is introduce each other to important films in our lives that the other person had not seen. So he introduced me to Lord of the Rings. I introduced him to Forrest Gump. So that's where 20-year-old me was at.
Well, why am I more surprised that he hadn't seen Forrest Gump?
I know, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that's actually more surprising to me than not seeing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
Forrest
He
Gump.
was like alternative. He was just like, I didn't watch this
Oh, I'm
fucking.
too cool.
You know
Yeah,
who else
he
was?
was
You know who else was fucking alternative? Fucking Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump was very alternative. Honestly, he loved Forrest Gump. That's what's so funny is that
So-
we watched the first one.
He was a 20-year-old man being like, I don't know what a box of chocolates is like.
No, my friend.
No frame of
He was
reference.
a 25-year-old man who had no idea what a box of chocolates was. So we watched that. He's like, I like Forrest Gump. We watched Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. I'm a changed person. Like,
Yeah,
I am
yeah,
now
yeah.
different. And so the next day in Florida, we went back to Blockbuster
Got
and
two
got
towers.
2 towers.
Yeah.
And then we had to drive back. We drove back 11 hours, whatever it is. It's like midnight. He was like, what do you want to do? Like, you got school tomorrow. I was still at VCU. And I was like, we gotta watch Return of the King. And then I couldn't go to school the next day because my eyes were swollen shut because I cried for like 5 straight hours.
Yeah, it is a very
through that.
sad ending.
And afterwards for hours, and I
You
still
bow for
do.
no one.
And that's the funny
Oh
thing is
my God.
we've watched it multiple times, and do I not still sob
Every
in
time.
the same way
Every
throughout
time.
the last
Yeah.
2 hours?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, just that you
My friends, you bow to no one. Goodbye.
Oh, tears
I will never not.
every
Okay,
I will
so
never not.
we
So-
should
I was
probably
gonna say,
talk
so
about Rings of Power.
One of the cool
Yeah.
things about Rings of Power is like when we started on was like they're going off like the appendices, so it's a really small chunk because as Hobbit mentioned, they don't have access and the rights to use the Silmarillion, which would definitely give so much more input to the world. Hopefully one day. I think if someone
think
sees
so.
if the family sees the money, they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
But
Stephen Colbert will die before the Silmarillion goes to, like he's gonna make it happen.
we get introduced to a lot. Right off the bat, the main story is about one of the characters that we get introduced that is brought into Fellowship of the Rings, Gadriel. Did I pronounce that right?
Galadriel.
Galadriel.
Yeah.
I knew I was forgetting a fucking letter.
Just one syllable.
But no, it's just so cool to see like
It's
what
the
she
most,
went through, and
it's
because you
the
see her-
worst name because Glad is not what she is at any point
Yeah.
throughout the entire.
even in the movie, she's like it's like it's the one you know.
so named her Sadriel.
Is the one that's
Oh, right.
thousands of years old that is like calm. She's the lady of the woods. We didn't see the warrior Galadriel.
Which, 2 things. I forgot my first point. But yeah, because I think some people were kind of like weirded out that they see, Kate Blanchett so ethereal in the movie. She's got like the halo kind of thing
Thousands
around
of
her.
years though.
Yeah. But so that's how she kind of was in the story.
Yeah.
Is she was this kind of warrior, badass kind of person. But this, where was I going with the similar? It's very, they kind of dance around the Silmarillion. I should know how to say it. Silmarillion. So they kind of dance around it a little bit, like kind of going into it as much as they can without being like, okay, we're taking this from the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I felt like it did have, there's that one moment in the trilogy that I feel like spoke to this Galadriel, and we talked about it when we were trying to discern who Sauron was. We're doing spoilers, right?
Yeah. Spoilers. By
Spoilers.
the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been
When we were
done
trying to
since,
discern
like, a month, but-
who Sauron was, and that, the entire time before we even realized that was a consideration, we were like, are they gonna fuck? Because like it seems like they're gonna fuck the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was saying that moment in the trilogy when they offer her the ring and she becomes like, I could be a dark queen, like that to me was the moment.
It was like that moment where it was like, do I listen to Paramore or do I listen to Evanescence? Like it was that like
Don't do that to her. Don't Evanescence
Neither
Galadriel.
of those are good choices. What the fuck?
Okay, Paramore, I will fight for. Evanescence, get the fuck out of here.
But that's the darker version, so that would be.
how
exactly.
could you?
I thought you were saying they're
bring
both
me
bad
from
options.
life?
Paramore's a great option.
But so a side note with that, I recently read a couple articles, and the actor that plays Halbrand said that it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibilities that they might not, get the fuckity fuck on.
explore each
Still,
other's bodies.
to this day.
Call me your
Still.
dark queen.
Call me God. Fucking-
Well, speaking of, that's why I just got a little like confused because there is a kind of throwaway line where she says she was married or she had a husband. I always names confused because they're all so similar.
Mm-hmm.
I hope her ex.
Oh my God! They also her husband that you see in Fellowship when they come to
The woods,
Lorien.
yeah, whatever the yeah.
Oh my God! I'm
Lothlorien.
I
Yeah.
wish that Galadriel's
So I'm just
ex-husband
like-
would be named like Steve or something. Like
But I was like, wait a second.
Walter.
So I guess that's why
wish.
they're trying to show like, they might fuck. But yeah, it was just kind of, they were making eyes at each other
They
the
were.
whole time.
It was
like,
palpable.
But I think
like
that
season one
was-
is just how Galadriel got her groove back. Where-
But and you can see like she because the same thing in Fellowship, she has that temptation, if she was offered the ring. So it's like it's always there, but you kind of see like she's like, no, absolutely not. Like, no, this is what I've been fighting against this whole entire time. You can kind of see that temptation for a second, and then she's like,
oh, her
fuck
pussy's
you.
popping. Like it's
Queen of willpower.
Yeah.
Truly.
But yeah, like you said, even in Fellowship, yeah, she says like, "All right, I passed, I get, and I can remain Galadriel." Like she, but I mean, even after thousands of years, it's tempted her. So
It's
like just seeing
ultimate
the
power.
origins of that is so seeing the difference of the will in Rings of Power versus how, like you said, how she's become this just aura of light.
I'm just
and-
got it made it look
know.
like that warrior women would go for pretty boys. Like that, like, okay, cool. Pretty boys have that level of like,
I
that
don't
even
know.
the
I
warrior
was
women
super
are like,
into that Aragorn, that rusty.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that more.
So question, did you like it when they just called him Strider, or did you like it when they started calling him Aragorn? I think Strider is way more badass, dude.
Strider.
Different
Right?
vibe. Like Strider is badass. Aragorn is like Zaddy vibe.
like Strider's
Zaddy
a guy,
King vibe.
like you're gonna meet him on your friend's couch
Yep.
and then find out that
Yep.
he was in a really popular band like 10 years ago.
That killed people.
Like,
Strider,
yeah,
you're paying
that
his
just-
electric bill.
Yeah, like Aragorn is like where his dad died and now he's gotten the money and so like
So
he's doing-
literally like Aragorn.
Aragorn had to like cook for his family.
Yeah. No, I just thought Strider was just the costume, everything fit Strider. Once it was Aragorn, it was like, I mean, I love the character, but I was also like, oh.
Well, I think I like how there was so misdirection all the time with Halbrand, because at first you're thinking, okay, he's kind of like the stand-in Aragorn.
Exactly.
kind of like-
The Lost King, all this, yeah.
And that's why at first I was like, because everybody was like, this person's Sauron. No, this person's Sauron. This person is Sauron.
I am Spartacus.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
But it was just like at first, you kind of think, when I honestly was thinking at first, I was like, well, maybe he's one of the 9 kings of men.
I thought that too.
Mm.
I had that
there
thought.
was so misdirection.
I actually went with the nine. I actually thought that too, 9 Kings of
I
Men.
thought
Yeah.
Okay,
that.
but like I understand the elves are like badass and shit. Like I'm not neglecting that at all, but like Galadriel is about to go to like elf heaven and she's right at the gates and shit's opening up and she's like, fuck that. I'm going to swim like 300 miles through like monster water to get back and like
Monster, yeah.
through monster water. And she's like, cool. And she's down. At that point, I'm like, all right, this bit, like no one is like the swim through 300 miles of what, like calm down. Calm
Especially
down,
'cause was that
Galadriel.
not like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your whole life? Like they crushed that when it all opened up and they were about to
the
go
ship
to
scene?
Yeah,
Yeah,
elf
yeah.
heaven.
It
That
opened up and it was just
absolutely incredible.
it was just the halftime that Prince played, and you're like, oh, this is heaven.
Yeah.
This is heaven. Like in the rain, and you're like, oh my god, there's nothing more beautiful.
Yes, he totally busted out some mad solos in
And
the rain.
Prince
It
like,
was awesome.
no,
It was a little weird that Purple Rain played. That felt kind of anachronistic, but I was still into it.
It's fine. It's fine. I was cool with it.
Prince is timeless.
I need one of our listeners that does video to just like have that moment, like, oh, and then it's just Prince.
Where's
playing.
Alan?
Rain,
Yeah, where's Alan? Yeah.
purple rain. Yeah, this is yeah. I will say that after that, so that leads into the episode 2, and then you meet, who we find out to be Sauron, and the only survivor of the whole, band of vagabonds that are on the broken ship, thing in the middle of the water. When they make it to that city,
Numenor.
Numenor, I gotta say that's where, like, for that story, I was like, it like just kind of got dozy for me.
A little,
but
yeah.
at the same time, they picked up the other elf story, traveling to the mines of Khazad-dûm, which becomes the mines of Mir and Fellowship. Like, that was the cool for Tolkien fans.
There was
that connection with Fellowship. It was like, hey, this is the same place that's in Fellowship.
They did do the thing where I was like, this is fucking heavy-handed, where it's like the Southlands.
Mordor. Oh, dude, that was rad as shit, though. I was like,
No, I liked it.
But so it was really cool to see it at its prime. And that story really got me. Like that faction of the story, I was like, oh, I can sink my teeth into this.
I did like where like the leaf falls down and it goes to the end and it's like, oh, the Balrog.
I know, right?
Like, all right,
dude. Just
all
everything
right.
leading up to that was so
Balrog.
fucking rad, dude.
Amazing.
It was so good. Yeah, but that's when that kind of took over the story for me because the whole time they're in the town, I feel like it was just gathering, and it was like not really much story building happening. I mean, I could have missed something, but
Put my nerd glasses on.
okay. No.
School us.
Kind of, it will become important because I don't know how much I can spoil.
As much as you
It's
want,
not
I
a
think.
Lord of the Rings episode until somebody releases a long sigh. I think.
Yeah, it's like,
It's because, again, it's like, you know, I will say the visions of what happens to Numenor. That's why you don't. That's why you don't see it anytime else in the rest of the story. So yeah,
more like no more Benor.
Yep.
oh no.
But
Nailed
yeah,
that
it's
for
because
They can't all be winners. Like
it kind of becomes like, and again, you have more seasons for this to become, you know, a big story. Is Farazan? You just look at that dude and you're like, he's up to no good.
Yep.
Yeah, right. No
Out of
shit, right?
Farazan.
Like,
Oh,
He just
he's
looks
got
evil as
that.
fuck.
What is it? The guy in Princess Bride with the 6 fingers. Oh, yeah.
for
at him.
Sorry, she's got a unibrow.
Oh, yeah.
That always makes you
I
evil.
had the same feelings about that little fucking dickhead kid. Like that kid. Like they ended
Yes.
the series where he's like, oh, maybe I'm not bad. I'm like, no, you're fucking bad.
Yeah.
If you don't end up a bad guy, I'm gonna be fucking upset. Like that little piece of shit. Like fuck
well,
that kid.
the thing, his son is one of the added characters. Like he doesn't exist in the story. Same with Isildur's sister. She doesn't exist. So I'm just like, what is her point in this? I just don't get her point. So she's just one of the made up characters.
The point I didn't get is when Gladriel like was drowning in the fucking river and then her boy like rolls up like, what's wrong? She's like, I'm not going to say what's wrong. I'm not going to say, oh, by the way, Sauron is in our fucking home.
Oh,
I'm just going to roll off and not say shit. She could have over her shoulder be like, motherfucker Sauron, and then like run up. But
Yeah, no, she wanted to.
nothing.
Yeah, she held on to that shit.
Well, I think she held on to that because
She still wanted to fuck.
Well, the thing is, I think if they knew the reason, like, okay, like, why was this guy so interested in smithing? And it was finally when I heard him say, like, oh, a gift. I was like, oh, that's fucking Sauron, because there's this whole thing where he kind of comes in this disguise as Anatar. I'm going into this somewhere. So he kind of goes to Celebrimbor and is just like, here's a gift of here's how you do all this with the So that's when I was like, oh shit, that's Sauron.
Yeah.
So because like at first it's such a throwaway line, I was like,
That's the dude.
That's
Yeah.
as if you know, you know.
But yeah, it was. Oh my god, I can't remember where I was going with this. Somebody refresh my memory.
There's lots of
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
Oh, when Gladriel was saying like why she didn't.
Oh,
explain,
right.
Oh, why
because
she didn't explain the
she, you know, her mind was basically like, if I tell them it was because of him, like he gave them this idea, they
But I'm
might
never
not
gonna
wanna-
fuck.
They're-
And-
Well, they're never gonna want to do the project that they're working on. They're not gonna want to do it because it was the Dark Lord's
But see that
idea.
from someone that hasn't read the books, like I see Gladriel being like, "No, let's make 3 rings," and she's like smirk, and I'm like, "Is that Gladriel? Like, is that somebody like pretend? Is that one of the like the sexy androgynous aliens that I have like weird feelings about that have like it's awakened something in me?" And
I don't think that's weird at all. I feel like that
no,
was
the fucking the hip popping fucking androgynous like alien wizards.
That was universal. You're not alone.
Oh my god!
I think everyone wanted to
Like
fuck the alien
yeah,
wizards.
like I think wherever they come from is also where David Bowie comes from. Like
Oh,
that's it's the
100%.
same fucking planet.
The real Slim Shady.
I will.
No,
Feminem?
totally. That
Feminem.
was Feminem. Yeah, yeah.
The Feminem can slim my shady any day. Like I
She
give
just
no
literally
fucks.
picked up fire out of a fucking fire and was like, I'm gonna play with this. I'm like, oh my god.
She also had like weird bondage shit over a toga and was like popping hips as she was they were walking. And I was like, fucking,
Yeah.
All three of them.
Fucking yes.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
yeah.
I was gonna say, another story that took my interest when that story kind of went that round, just for me, was the increase with the town and the elves leaving the tower and the orcs coming back through the tunnels and seeing those tunnels and what they did come to fruition down the road was so good.
That was very cool.
That was baller status, right? Like,
oh my god, because when I saw like it was all going towards that, mountain. I was like, Mount Doom. I'm sitting
just
there
the way
whole
that
time just
fucking
going,
so good.
because I thought that was, oh my god, that was such a good fight scene. I think because when you realize like they made you saw like, okay, orcs, they bleed black, and then it was just like I didn't think about it at first, but then I was like,
oh, there's red. Shit, right?
Shit. I knew it couldn't be over that quick.
I want you to go on a mental journey with me. The old man that's like talking shit and be like, fucking Sauron had it right. Everything that happened after that, imagine if he was named Q instead. And like QAnon, that's exactly what fucking happened. Like,
oh, God. Oh, why? QAnon. Oh.
You made it too real. We're
Too
talking
real?
fantasy.
Yeah, no, so you made it. Oh.
Let's go back to where we escape.
Yeah,
This nice fantasy.
Exactly. Let's just
shit.
evolve in the fantasy.
all right, so the elf and the dwarf that are friends. Like,
There we go. Yay!
Yay, my
But-
favorite part.
I really like. So that's totally that elf's son, right? Like that's totally like him and that chick from that town were fucking, right? That's his kid, right?
I didn't.
No,
I thought that
gather-
immediately.
I didn't gather that.
Because he like has more of a like slight more tan than she does, and then the elf's like super got
kid,
super
like-
melanin. So I just assumed
True.
that they got their fuck on.
Oh my
I'm
God,
sorry,
that was-
like
I
I'm
thought
sorry,
it
but that
felt
was
it felt
the
fresh to
ugliest
me,
motherfucker.
dude.
The whole
Yeah.
time I'm like
You're talking about the kid. You're talking about the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
ugly
Oh, no,
as shit. He was the one that we thought was shitty the whole time because he just has
He
a shitty
reminded
little
me
face.
of like
Yeah.
every single fucking like grade I was in high school. There was that like greasy kid that smelled bad, and he looked
Yeah.
exactly like that fucking
Yeah.
kid.
Single time.
Fuck that kid.
He
Look, that,
fully looks like. Did you say we had a quiz? I thought we had a quiz today, right? Like he's that kid.
fuck that kid.
Fuck that kid.
Fuck that
He
kid.
grew
They
up.
casted that with like, who's the shitty kid who asked for a quiz? And he was like,
he's so
it was
greasy.
me.
He's so greasy. He grew up to be the fucking little lollipop dude from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh shit.
Paul Rubens from Mystery Men is just like, I feel less gross than that kid does.
No hate to that actor. I'm sorry.
No, of course.
Yeah, no, also,
that
like,
actor's
no.
great.
Every single
Not
time
the
he was
child that's playing the character, but
every single time he was on screen, I'd be like, "That's an unfortunate looking."
You're just a great actor. You don't have a shitty little face.
No.
You're just a
No,
really
but
good
I just
actor.
assumed that when they finally introduced the kid and you saw their interaction between, I forget her name, and the elf, and it was like, again, she was like pretty white, and again, he has like a tan, the kid, and I'm like, you know.
And
Maybe.
I think it was a fun callback. Most people would go to like there was some throwaway line. They were just like, "Oh, the last time something happened with an elf and a human."
Yeah, exactly,
And
yeah.
most people think like Aragorn, Arwen, and me nerd out. I'm like Baron and Luthien, which are Elrond's descendants.
Yeah, but that is the thing in the live action though, that they are going for the like the elf human shit. Like everybody's on board too. Like you've got like Aragorn and fucking what's her face? Fucking Liv Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
Arwen. And
yeah.
everybody's like, fuck yeah, the locket, and they're fucking into it, and it's great. And then
Plus,
you've got
we talk about Liv Tyler's lips.
then you've got even Sauron,
Yes.
Sauron and Galadriel, and
How
people
dare
are
you.
shipping that shit all day. But the minute that fucking the chick from Lost and a Hobbit get together, everybody loses their
Oh
fucking
my
minds.
fucking God,
like,
that was-
and
No,
as
it
somebody
was
whose nickname is the Hobbit, I take fucking offense to that. I can pull an elf.
No,
thank you.
it was an
wasn't
elf
that.
and a dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Oh,
every
dwarf,
time
sorry,
that
yeah.
like the what is it? hurt. Oh, this
Well,
is
and it was
love.
fully fabricated. Like
God,
everything
yeah.
about that
Well,
was
the live action
fabricated.
ones are because like even the fucking Lord of the Rings shit was fabricated, right? That wasn't
It
in the
was.
books.
She was a character, whereas like
Tariel,
Evangeline Lilly was not
didn't
a real
exist.
character.
and
Yeah.
that was the worst fucking thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I went in the
Oh,
theater,
Jesus.
and when that happened, I went, ugh.
Yeah, they weren't.
Ugh.
She wasn't even real. Arwen was real. They just didn't have the romance.
Well, and that's the thing. It's because there's
just the creators like humans fuck elves. I don't know what to tell you. Like they
Humans
just
fuck
do that.
elves.
I think
Look at
it's
the
more
two of them.
elves fuck
Look at the two of
humans.
them.
I think elves fuck humans because
Yeah, there's no way that
Elves
like
are
a
stronger than
female
humans.
elf is going to be the sub in
that's
that
what I'm saying. Like
relationship.
that's not working, dude. Like
I
the
think
elves
they
are
were
like,
just both
I'm
on
gonna ride that
screen.
dick.
What we're saying is that Aragorn gets pegged, like for
Whoa.
sure.
Well, we talked about how definitely in the dwarf prince and his wife that there's definitely some like sexual maneuvering.
He subs for her.
She pegs him.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%.
She pegs that prince.
Well, that's why the whole thing with Tariel and the dwarf feeling, that's why I didn't quite get it. Was terrible as it was, but it's just because there's this whole thing, and you kind of see in Lord of the Rings when Legolas and Gimli, they have their like banter and everything, and in the whole thing when they do the whole fellowship, how the elves look kind of down on, dwarves. So that's why I was like, there's no way an elf would be in love with a dwarf. There's no way. And it's because they've always had kind of this like rivalry, which is why the banter between Elrond and Durin was so great.
That was great.
It was
Yeah.
Because they were still shitting on each other. Like they were.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in real life where I've had friends that like are from different like cultural backgrounds that will like shit on each other in the most playful way, and it's most not me. I'm white. I can't have that kind of relationship. But my friends from like minority friends have had that relationship with each other where it's like me with each other, and it's very cute and adorable.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I'm the white guy in the corner being like, "That's cute. You guys can do that." I can't. I can't.
Oh,
I can't do
God,
that.
the part when he was telling like Gilgamesh, I don't know.
Gilgamesh.
That's it.
Yeah, whatever.
You remember that scene when Gilgamesh shows up?
Yeah.
Really-
Whatever, dude. It's so hard to remember all the names.
There's so many names.
Anyway.
There's so many storylines.
Gilgamesh, he's like, Durin is like, well, this rock is actually really culturally important to us dwarves.
Oh,
so
that
for the
was-
fact that you guys made it a fucking kitchen table or whatever you did with it, that's fucked up. And so then they're walking, Elrond, he's walking them out, and he's like, I just wanted a new kitchen table.
Yeah. I will say when that relationship started where he rolls into the mountain and they have the rock off. That was lame as shit. I was like, this is garbage. And that was one of the previews that you saw before the series started where they're
Yep.
like, hey, check out how cool the show is. And I'm like, this looks like stupid as shit.
Yeah, because we watched it, we were like, oh no.
Well,
No,
but
this
it
looks so dumb.
it served a purpose.
It served
did.
a
That
scene
purpose.
served a
And
purpose.
Contextually,
And
yeah.
once you get to know the characters, like all the you can't have that separate.
No.
Like that has to
It
be
has to be
part of the
contextual.
context.
No, but
yeah.
like I mean, literally during that scene, you saw him like stop for a second and then just kneel and put his fucking sledge down. Like
Yeah.
he like before it gets to the scene 5 episodes later, he did that because he knew there was something more important than the pride that comes from this. And
Right.
once he's involved, he'll see that as well, that it goes beyond the breaking of the rocks and all that. But they had to also overcome that 20-year missing the wedding, birth of both children, and all that anger that he had, which understandable. So as a friend, as a good friend,
And that was
this
very
kind of
cool.
shit, bro. That's
Yeah, because like to an elf, that's like, that's
like a
2
week.
years.
It's
Yeah,
like 2
that's
weeks, like whatever the
yeah.
fuck. You
And
know?
to a dwarf, that's just like, that's 20 years.
And I love that
Exactly.
was something that really got contextualized in that moment. Where for the elf, it was like this was like a couple weekends ago. For the dwarf, like dude, like my life is blown by. That was really cool to see how that affects relationships.
And that's how you realize, like, in that context, just by, the end, like, Return of the King and everything, when they, at the end, they're all getting on ready to go back to Valinor. That's when you realize how old these elves are. Like,
Yeah.
they
Very,
are thousands of
very
years
old.
old. So again, like, that was just like, and we partied like, I thought, that was a month ago. No, that was 20 years ago.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. But the elf, exactly, and like,
Like I'm human, and I'm like, oh yeah, I saw them a couple years ago. Oh, that was 8 years ago. I saw that band.
not
You know,
bringing
so-
it to the serious level as QAnon, but there is a serious conversation.
Oh, no.
There is a serious conversation in that story of like how even people obviously don't live longer. We all live roughly to the same age. How like you get so caught up in things that you don't realize you're missing other things that of people that are important to you.
Sure.
And and he was important to him. He just didn't realize the time because he didn't stop to think about the difference.
Well, I think that's
You know?
why connected is that we've all have that moment where we have friends that we just lose track of and you don't talk to for a while. And it's not because anybody did anybody dirty. There's no ill feelings. It's you get caught up, you get busy.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't hang out for a couple months, and then a couple months turns into a couple years, and then years later you end up running across each other because somebody has a kid, or you run across each other in town or something, and then you restart that friendship, and then it's like no time has passed, and you go, why did I wait this long
Yeah.
to like spend time with somebody
And
that I
you see that
value so
happening
much?
and you see that happen 100%.
Everybody could connect to that relationship because we've all had that moment.
I love that story. I love
Yeah.
this story arc in this show so much. I do.
And in that, I do want to talk about the precious gems that they're digging out of the mountain.
And Daddy. We got Angry
Oh,
Daddy.
well, and the daddy issues of Tolkien, apparently, we're going to be getting into for sure.
So many.
But let's save that for the second half. We are at the break, so let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about daddy issues and precious metals and what we're drinking. So stick around. We'll be right back. The Geeks Under the Influence are back again November 19th at the Richmond Raceway Complex for Virginia Comic Con. Come on out, meet some of your favorite showrunners from the Geeks Under the Influence network, spin the wheel, win some prizes, buy some merch, and enjoy the convention with us. It's 36,000 square feet of artists, comics, toys, and even a costume contest. So make sure if you're a cosplayer, dress in your favorite cosplay stuff, and we'll see you there November 19th at the Richmond Raceway Complex. Tickets are available at vacomiccon.com. We are back for the second half of Geeks Under the Influence, all things Rings of Power. But before we continue with that, we're going to be talking about our sponsors a little bit first. Of course, first one up is Amazon.com. I know, bleh, fuck Jeff Bezos, but we all use the service from time to time. We duck our heads down and hit click when we need something in the house and we don't have time to go out and get it. And when you're shamefully shopping Amazon.com, especially during the holiday season, make sure that you shamefully go to GUIPodcast.com and click on Shop Amazon on the homepage on the upper right-hand corner. That way we get credit for all your shameful purchases on Amazon. It's not quite Mordor. It's close. But instead of casting your ring into the lava, cast your click onto the homepage of
You're trying, buddy. I got you.
GUIPodcast.com.
You're trying. I love you for it.
And we will be like Gollum, clinging to the money that we get from
Keeps coming.
the.
Yep.
Is that
Keep it
is that
going.
connecting at
It's
all?
working really well.
Okay, great.
I think it's
It's
great.
your best work ever.
Amazon.com. It's like Mount Doom.
Oh.
Next up
Shit.
is like the Shire. I'm not going to try to find some parallel. TeePublic. Just go to TeePublic, man. Like
Yeah.
we're going to have all the designs from the Halloween season up to the end of the year. So all those limited edition
yeah.
spooky shirts are going to be available through the end of the year. We're going to be putting up some of our holiday season shirts as well. And all the designs you've come to know and love over, I think it's like close to 60 designs at this point.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. We got a whole lot available on our TeePublic site. Just go to GUIPodcast.com/store and that will send you right to our TeePublic page where you can look at all the cool shit that we have, including designs that have Lowdown's face, my face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those things.
Also shirts that don't, in case you're not into that kind of thing.
Which I don't know why you wouldn't be. Whatever.
If we come up with a funny enough pun on this episode, I'll create a Lord of the Rings shirt. Or Rings of Power or whatever.
Yeah.
Cock Rings of Power. I don't know. We'll come up with something. Yeah.
I will say, at a minimum, like they go down as simple as stickers and magnets.
Yep.
So you go on there on a sale too when you catch it. If you sign up for text alerts, They alert you when there's a sale. It's usually 3 to 4 days. It's like every other week, every week and a half.
It's often.
And like you could literally pick up the large size magnet for like $250. Like it's, I mean, so it's just stickers and magnets, man. Base level.
Get a coffee mug that's like farts are cool. That's actually not one of ours, but I'm gonna have to make that
Surprising.
It probably already exists.
It probably does. But I mean, you're gonna the human centipede live, laugh, love is a great coffee mug choice. Y'all motherfuckers need Odin is a great one. The Arrested Development Dr. Manhattan mashup is great.
The Never Nude shorts.
Never Nude Dr. Manhattan is pretty great.
Good.
Plenty of designs available at TeePublic, GUIPodcast.com/store to hit that.
Oh, fuck Michael Bay.
Fuck Michael Bay is
wore that shirt.
Simple but great design.
I wore that shirt this past weekend. I got like 15 compliments.
Nice.
People were like, "Nice shirt." And I'm like, "I know." I don't know how you made so much money, Michael Bay, but apparently.
My favorite was I wore that to a bar and a dude started laughing and his girlfriend was like, he pointed it out and she's like, "Who's Michael Bay?" And he's like, "The one that did all the Transformers movies." And she's like, "Oh, I like those movies." And he looked so pissed.
He was probably like,
yeah. I think I ended a relationship with that shirt.
Yeah, it was probably for the better.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just saying.
But yeah, those are our sponsors. Now on to the thing that really powers this show. It's not the money we make from the fucking...
Definitely not.
From Morgoth, a.k.a. Amazon. It's... God damn it. We're talking about the booze that powers the show. We're talking about what we're drinking.
Oh, no. No.
Uh-oh.
That sounded...
Hey, we're fucking drinking. We're getting drunk. You want to know? Well, here you go. Hey,
we're drinking. We're getting drunk.
Yay.
Yay.
I'll fix that in post.
Yeah.
So we actually have a couple choices here. Audrey, you're nice enough to bring some very Renaissance Fair appropriate booze for us to be sipping on. What do we got here?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
I mean, like, Equilica?
It's from South Africa.
Yep.
It's a South African mead, right? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, they had like tons to choose from. So I was like, this looks good.
It's pretty tasty. I like it. It's a light mead. I've had some meads that are like, kick you in the face.
This I can do.
Yeah, this is a very sessionable like mead.
Yeah.
Because we've all had the mead that is just so fucking heavy.
This
several hints of cinnamon, apple, rosehip, and hibiscus flower.
Yeah, this has a little dryness to it as well, which I appreciate because some meads will just like immediately give you that mustache and turn you into Mr. Diabetes himself.
Yes.
Valhalla, I am coming.
I want to come back inside. That's what you start saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to come back inside. Oh. And for those of you who don't know, it's a Thing reference.
That's the thing. Yeah.
It's just saying.
Yeah.
You should, fucking.
I know him best from Cocoon.
Oh, yeah. No, Cocoon's a solid fucking film.
He was like 44 when that movie came out. He was like in his 40s when that came out, and he still looked like he was like 82 years old.
I'm so glad I got to meet him before he passed. I really am.
Put some
Wilfred
hair in
Brimley.
your beard like a little dwarf.
Yeah, this is definitely some dwarf booze right here.
Easy now, you ladies might start turning on some dwarves. You keep growing that facial hair. I don't know. Just chill out.
I mean, not turning me away. It's fine. Like
Noted.
I can stop shaving. I
Facial
think that's what she heard. I can
Yeah.
stop shaving.
facial hair is not a no from me, dog.
Yay.
No, this is actually very tasty. I appreciate this. This is
It's good.
yeah, it's a little bit of sweet but floral. It's more floral than anything, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it.
The next one, this was suggested by Ms. Amy Bogarde, and we picked it up together. Brewdog Brewing Company. Talk about nail on head. This is the Lord of the Rings Fellowship IPA.
Yeah, it took a lot of creativity for me to choose this one.
Yeah, it was a lot of thought.
I'm proud of you.
Going into the maze of my mind.
This is a hazy India Pale Ale, as the elves drink, I think. And
They're known for
this is 5%. So
Yeah, it's pretty light.
I will say this is probably not of the octane level they were drinking back in those
Probably
days.
not.
brewed with mithril hops.
Yep.
And
yeah.
Even if you drank a pint, Wouldn't even fuck up a Hobbit.
Wouldn't even fuck up a Hobbit.
Pretty light.
That is the
Hobbits,
gauge.
for their size, it's pretty clear that they got a high tolerance.
Oh yeah, they know how to party.
Yeah,
They can
Probably.
party. Like Hobbits can party. That's canon.
It actually
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's got like Elven on it, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. So,
Elvish.
Elvish, sorry,
Oh, that
Elvish on it. So yeah, Brewdog Fellowship IPA is definitely a good choice for any of the Lord of the Rings viewing, whether or not you're watching Rings of Power or the original Lord of the Rings movies.
Any fellowshipping, really.
If you're watching The Hobbit, stop.
Oh,
Just
stop.
don't.
Yeah, God, those
Just don't
fucking
do that.
movies, man.
That
Like, look.
has the One Ring
Oh.
inscription.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. One ring to
Yeah.
rule them all, one ring to bind them.
One ring to rule them.
Can we
all,
talk about
one
the
ring
song?
to bind them. One.
Oh
ring
my
to-
God.
Oh, no, one. Oh God, I fuck it up every single time.
I do too.
One ring to
It's one ring
To rule
to
them
rule
all.
One,
One
ring,
ring to find them.
Find them.
find them.
One
One
ring
Ring to
Bring them all.
bring them all.
bring them all.
And in the dark-
Through the
And in the
darkness,
darkness,
find
bind
them.
them. Yeah,
Well,
damn it.
oh my God, I did not realize that was Fiona Apple.
Oh.
Yeah, did you know? Yeah, the fucking terrible song at the end of episode 8 was like, one ring to rule
I actually
them
was
all.
into it.
Oh, I
and
hated
One
it.
ring to find
At
them.
No, that
first-
wasn't good.
No, I would-
In my opinion.
sorry, I was into it.
No, we were laughing so fucking hard. We were like, this song is just like telling the story of what we just saw. It was like, and then a human found an elf in the water. And then she went to the Southlands to find some goblins and orcs.
Mordor.
Well, honestly-
Mordor.
At first, I thought it was like Lana Del Rey, and I was like, no, it's not deep enough.
It
And
wasn't
then-
about aliens, so.
And then, and then I saw in the credits, I was like, I went back, I was like, oh shit, that was Fiona Apple. So I was
Call
like,
back
wow.
to 90s kids.
Yeah,
What's
I
up?
was into it. I liked it.
I love Fiona Apple, but yeah, I was not feeling the song.
I wasn't feeling the song.
She's like, I've been a bad, bad elf.
Jesus Christ.
Stop.
I've
No.
been careless with a delicate man.
Dude, that's a shirt. Somehow figure out Fiona.
It's just-
That help, dude.
I don't
Figure
know.
that
I
out,
think
dude.
it's because I loved her cover of Across the Universe for Pleasantville, so that's where my mind was going.
Pleasantville. Wow.
Oh shit, that is one of my favorite movies.
Oh my God.
It is a good movie, but yeah.
Technically a Spider-Man prequel.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
All right, I can nerd out about that movie forever.
In canon, Pleasantville. No, but that song, like, it's got that like super ghosty Lord of the Rings, like one ring to the.
Oh yeah,
But, like,
was
none of-
that fucking Enya who did a song for?
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
But
Enya.
at least she sounded like an elf. Like it sounded ethereal. Like there's nothing about Fiona Apple sounds like sexy Quaaludes. Like she doesn't sound like.
if you could make Quaaludes sexy,
Yeah,
that
like,
is feeling.
she-
Wow, that's your fucking. That's
like-
what you left behind.
Enya sounds like a forest spirit. Like
pure muse.
What was that? The Ents? Like she speaks for the Ents, like
Yes.
the trees. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. Now I will say the better.
Fiona Apple sounds like somebody that's gonna fuck you at a Deep Forest concert. Like that's not. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a
yeah.
little different.
Like she's like the one that they actually over the years have told you to steer clear of it. Fucking what's that? Muddy Roots.
Muddy
There you
Roots,
go.
yeah.
Like steer clear of that chick. No, but the vocals that weren't bad in
Like Fiona
the
Apple
series
uses
was-
a
Jesus
cup,
Christ.
right?
It
Like
won't stop. It
instead
won't
of
Hell's
stop.
never gonna stop.
It's not gonna stop.
uses a cup instead of like tampons, right? Like Fiona Apple, like
Like a diva cup?
like a diva cup. Like Fiona Apple 100% has a diva cup.
I feel like Galadriel would have a diva cup.
Galadriel definitely has a diva cup.
Let me tell you about my diva cup.
She's also like vegan level of telling people about her diva cup too, Galadriel.
Yeah,
like,
so I have a diva cup.
yeah. Because I'm one with the earth. I'm like, yes, we know Galadriel.
We
Yes,
got you.
know. Oh yeah, minimal footprint.
My
Yes, we know.
blood
We know.
spilled on the battlefield.
Anyway, better singing vocals is Dude Man's wife. When she's
Oh, yeah.
belting to the fucking mountain, I was like,
yeah.
oh my God.
That was
Whoa.
that was
Fuck.
rad, and that kind
Why
of
didn't they just play that at the end?
I was, you're right. I'm like, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, okay, she's actually doing, no, that's not her.
But also, how moving would it have been if they played like the Billy Boyd song that he sings in Return of the King?
Yeah, that would have been
Credits?
fucking
Right.
cool. Yeah.
I would have cried
Yeah.
easily.
Well, they're probably going to wait till like the series finale because it's going to lead up like right before I'm going on an adventure.
Yep.
Right? It's that's got to be like, there's going to have to be time jumps at some point if
Yeah.
they're going to keep this going, right?
Well, that's just where the funky timelines are going. That they're condensing like thousands of years.
Yeah, we talked about that before the episode. They definitely did some fuckery with the timeline, but
Yeah,
it
because
was necessary. It
they
was
had to.
necessary. It was.
Yeah, and it's just at the same time, it's kind of like they could stretch it out since they have so many seasons planned. But I think for me that's we all have accepted that's Gandalf. That's fine.
Yes, that's
yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
Gandalf.
So it's just
I'm still
like,
voting for Razmataz or whatever his fucking name is.
Radagast.
Radagast.
I think it would be cool. like
Rasmus.
I said prior to recording, like initially when she said, what'd you call her? The Eminem.
Feminem.
Feminem.
when Feminem was like, "You are the other," before they like disintegrated into air.
I'll reiterate.
Um,
I fucking would. Like, I fucking would.
As you fucking should.
Oh my
But
god.
I was gonna say, like, when she said that, I did immediately go Saruman, just because
Me
he is the
too.
older
I thi-
wizard.
yeah,
you know?
because
But,
I
like,
think that's, and again, why there are so many misdirections. Because, my boyfriend was like, as soon as they said, "Oh, we bow to you, Sauron," and he was just like, "Yes, that was him all along." I was like,
No.
wait a second.
I honestly never thought he was. I knew he was
No.
powerful. I knew
Yeah.
he was obviously a
But
wizard, but I never thought he was
it's-
Sauron.
I think for me,
Sauron.
I just would have I think it would have been more fun to kind of introduce Gandalf, very obvious, kind of maybe later seasons. But I guess it's because they're condensing so many timelines. Like the Eastar, they didn't show up for a long time. And I think that does play with their kind of stories because, how he's just very much like, I don't know where I am, what the fuck, I can't control my powers. That was very much in line with when the Istars went over into Middle Earth and everything. They kind of just didn't know where am I,
Yeah.
And
It's like when I moved to Virginia.
yeah.
It's like, I don't know where I am.
Like,
That's
I
where
don't-
you moved to in Virginia.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I don't know the language. I don't know.
Definitely
how to-
didn't know the
Yeah,
language.
Don't know our accent.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah,
how
the first
these
time that I
people
went against,
speak.
I don't mean it as a racist thing. Anybody can be no, that's
Ugh.
No. Hey, you learned that day, didn't you?
And that is very much in line with his character, though,
Oh, I
for
wish I was
sure.
there.
Is because he was actually the last one to. I'm still going.
Oh, no.
oh, ignore our dumbass.
Yeah, we're just being stupid.
But yeah, it's very much in line with his character. And I think there are some people who are arguing, well, that could be Saruman. That could be one of the blue elves that we kind of... Wizards. I
In your
did it.
tongue,
We were
it's
outside.
wizard.
Yeah, I did it earlier. The wizards. So there's two blue elves, and they go into the forest somewhere. So basically, when they get in touch with, Feminem and everything, that is, that's eventually gonna be in turn to Mirkwood because it's so close to the Southlands, and it, gets corrupted by more.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Let me-
Mirkwood,
let
if
me,
you guys know, Mirkwood is prominent in,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
the trilogy. Yes.
So, so I really don't think, people saying like, oh, the Saruman, that's one of the two blue elves and blah, 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 blah. That's fucking Gandalf.
Yeah, no, and then, I mentioned this too, what sold it to me that it wasn't Saruman after the initial, oh, you're not Sauron, which they announced finally, I was like, when he said, follow your nose, and I was like, that is a Gandalf phrase through and through.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
He said that to so many, well, mainly Frodo and Bilbo. Through the Hobbit, through the Fellowship of the Rings, he says, follow your nose. And I'm like, okay, all right, there you go.
That is.
You know what's crazy? I don't remember that at all. I do not remember him ever saying that. And so we were saying like, okay, he's got to say like a major Gandalfism. And neither of us remembered it because he said that and we were like, well, that's not shit. Anyways, moving on. And then both of you said that that's a major Gandalfism. And I do not remember it.
I like the term Gandalfism.
Yeah.
Gandalf has some of the greatest fucking shit ever that he says.
It just sounds like I should
amazing.
be impatient with short people. Like,
As you should.
So, never
me,
mind.
impatient
Yeah,
with myself. Yeah.
It's like,
I already
Yeah,
have
you
that.
are.
yeah, you open the door.
The number
I
of
was
times
just
that I
like,
say a thing and I'm like annoyed with myself. Yeah.
Well, and going back to like condensing timelines and everything is just they actually didn't make the Elven Ring first. So that's why I'm kind of like interested to see like how they're going around with these things because they kind of made the Elven Ring so Sauron couldn't understand that we had our kind of own rings and we didn't really use them that much because we didn't want him to know that we had we had our rings.
And one of the things I read, strictly speaking to that, in the finale was that it was a way for the way they wrote Galadriel to say goodbye to the past by melting her brother's dagger,
Yeah.
and then also a way for them to fuse that stone, that new
The mithril.
the mithril, yeah, because they had no other, they couldn't get it to work any other way, so they thought they could kind of like trick it by fusing it with other metals. So from what I read, the writers utilized that to kind of combine all that, and then out of that comes the rings. And they already introduced the 3 stones prior, like 4 episodes before.
Yeah, it was actually earlier in that episode. Yeah, because
was it just that episode? I thought it was
it
like
was
episodes
actually
before
in that. No, it was that
Okay.
episode because I think like he opens it and they're like, "Oh, what are these stones?" And he's just like,
Okay.
I want to talk about the knife being fucking melted down because like all the build up to that happening, they're like, yeah, it has to be a very specific level of metal and like the balance between the silver and the gold and the mithril has to be fucking perfect in order for this to work. And it's like super delicate. And then they just melt the entire knife down. They don't separate the silver and the gold at all. So it's just whatever balance between the two was in the knife.
But it looked pretty.
And then they just drop the whole fucking stone in there being like, good enough. Like I've done that before in recipes and it's always oversalted. Like they didn't measure shit.
They over-mithrilled the rings?
They over-mithrilled the rings.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was just such a perfect way that they showed that is because it looked like the eye of Sauron.
Yes.
Yes, that was the way they did
I hope
that,
everybody
I was like,
caught that. Like obviously us, but I'm talking about like viewers. I hope you caught that. Like when he drops in there, you're like, oh fuck, that's yeah.
Okay, but it also can't just be us that it looked like forbidden cheese dip, right? Because we were having a moment
Yeah,
where
we're
it
like,
looked like
that-
forbidden
or like
buffalo
the
That's
chicken.
the Rachelette of doom.
Like the cheese dip, you're looking at it like my ass was gonna hurt tomorrow.
my
That's some
But I'm
buffalo,
in.
That's
I'm
a buffalo
in.
chicken dip. Like,
yeah,
get
you
that.
stick the bread that the elves give them,
Yeah.
the limbus bread.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
like,
stick a little bit.
I
in
would
there.
tear that shit up.
One bite and you're full, and you're like, oh no,
Oh, no, I wanted more. Then you're
so
dipping your little
good.
finger in the cheese
like,
dip.
I will say though, they made that shit look pretty. The way they like
It was so
guided
beautiful.
here and guided there and guided here. and
One
guided there.
dip to
Oh,
them.
oh God, no.
That's me with way too much
Oh.
confidence at the home or the housewarming party.
That's when
bringing
you.
my dip
That's when you
in.
find that somebody brought a French onion dip, and you're like,
Oh
"Mm."
shit!
God damn it.
Like the stupid guacamole I brought in shit.
But
dipping it in
I do
the
agree that. But
alley.
so in the timeline that I remember though, the I thought the elves did have the first 3, and man had the 9 from the men were the last, right?
Well, because so I know like he kind
But
of
anytime she goes, meh, she's literally pushing her glasses up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it was a thing of as he kind of disguised himself as this Anatar. So he kind of gifted the rings to, he gave them as a gift to the 9 kings and then the dwarves. And then the elves are kind of like, that's kind of sus. So they kind of, so it's just, so they kind of played with the timeline of that a little bit. So it's just, Yeah, it's just the elves. They did have their rings.
Yeah, like season 3 is just
And-
going to be the Among Us game, but
Yeah,
with
'cause-
Sauron and elves.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
really use their rings kind of like afterwards to kind of like rebuild, I guess, like Lorien, all these different elf places. And so, yeah, they just didn't use their rings because they were like, something's not right. Something's kind of sus. So we're just not going to use the power of our rings because something's kind of hinky here.
Mhm.
Like, I feel with the rings, like with the dwarves, you could be like, it's made out of like a really rare metal, and they're like, fucking give it to me. Like, I don't even give a shit
Yeah.
that it's evil. With humans, you're just going to be like, hey, have stuff. And they're going to be like, yes, I will have
Yeah,
stuff.
he comes
Yeah,
to them as like a gift, like,
But
oh, yes,
but
look at these rings.
the elves are
that
like
I
the
have for you."
hipsters of Middle Earth, where you have to kind of like, in order for them to take the rings, you have to act like you don't even understand. Like, oh, you wouldn't want this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no,
And
you know,
it's
no,
also-
you wouldn't understand these rings. They're like, no, I kind of want these rings
Well,
now. I was like, no, yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
And it comes to the dwarves kind of greed, and that's why, they mined and kind of their greed kind of took over them, and then they mined too deep.
I'm excited to see that part of the story though. Like,
Me too.
just so
and
excited.
I mine too deep and no.
Oh my god, dude! What the fuck?
Look, I've
damn it.
been dry on dad jokes for like 10 episodes.
But you can't like blow your entire load on one episode. Like, holy shit!
You're doing. Oh, we watched. Oh, okay. Let me just give some context really quickly. We did watch the Weird Al Yankovic movie. Weird. And so I think
yeah.
he's just like his mind is
I'm just
reeling.
in full like corny joke mode.
Yeah, I totally
Corny or
understood the
horny?
context. Unfortunately,
A little bit of both.
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
You heard him talking about Feminem.
Yeah.
He was like fucking.
Yeah.
Have you seen
Dry
Daniel
humping.
Radcliffe
But I
dressed
think
as Weird
when
Al?
I mine too
Like,
deep, I'm like, yeah, like that's
the most horny is Daniel Radcliffe dressed as Weird Al Yankovic.
Really?
Yeah.
Very
Oh man.
horny.
Jesus,
Oh.
Very horny.
Jeez.
Extremely horny movie.
I call it mustache play.
But
Get out of here.
I'm very stoked to
I
see
think
that.
it's time for you to leave.
You know what I think the final season needs to be? It literally needs to be Sauron at the height of his power, fucking crushing shit, leading up to the ring getting cut off his hand. Like that needs to be
Hell
like
yeah.
the finale.
The finale for
like,
sure, yeah.
Well,
like-
because of course Isildur's not dead. Because
Right.
Yeah.
there's a whole other 6 more movies to go.
Yes.
Right?
But
We only count 3. Sorry, I fucked that movie.
yeah.
How many-
Fuck the Hobbit
only 3
movies.
movies.
I do want
And
to.
one animated film.
And, oh, real quick, because I know they can't touch too much on the Silmarillion, but it's just they gloss over the whole battle leading up to the whole, the events that set up where they, defeat Morgoth and blah 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 blah. That actually would have been really badass to see all those fights.
I would have loved
Yeah,
that.
Morgoth. Yeah.
They're waiting for the
then,
success
like,
of this series so they can do a whole other series about
and then,
Morgoth.
like,
and
Yeah,
And paying
Morgoth would be
70
badass.
million an episode
Taking
for those.
the light of the trees and blah blah blah, and Ungoliant, that's where you get Shelob and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I just want a
I
really
agree.
quiet, like Garden State style indie comedy about the Ents. Like that's really what I just like a side.
But it wouldn't be like Garden State because they're so wise that
It would
their
literally be
voices
called
would-
Garden State because it's like it's just,
But no, their voice like you couldn't do something that dramedy, I guess, because like they just talk so wise and this
it'd be a
might the
15-minute
last
short
time.
film that would last 2 hours.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay, so
it's
that's where the shins went. Because I didn't know where their career went, but they're just hibernating,
They're
waiting for the
hibernating.
end series
The
to come
Ent
out.
series to come out.
That makes sense.
No, I do want to talk a little bit about like the battle that caused Mount Doom to doom it up. That
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about
Was the releasing that river.
about the river
Fucking-
being released. I thought it was really smart how they used the tower against the enemy, and that was really smart. And then you see the fires coming up, and you're like, okay, they got this. And you're like, oh, they maybe don't. And then there's that moment where they're fucked, and dude rolls in.
Because remember, you see
Agar,
Yeah,
yeah.
Agar. You see him walk out of the tavern. He's like, "Hey, I need you to do something for me. Come here." And he switched the fucking hatchet
Yeah,
for the
he did a little
fucking
switch
shard, and then he takes the shard and up, okay, yeah, we're fucked. Now we got Mordor.
And then he's like, the basement of the pizza shop has kids in it. And then he just puts it into the stone and releases.
He's like, wait, this is totally like cutting up a pig.
I'm still on the MAGA.
QAnon
I'm still
Pizzagate?
that's QAnon sword going into.
Oh, but I'm just so...
Are you okay?
I'm circling back to my
Oh
whole
my
QAnon
God.
joke from the beginning of the
Because it
episode.
went so well then.
Yeah, it went over like a lead balloon.
We
but
just
But
double
it's
down.
just that just it makes me think because I'm just so excited to see like future episodes to see like the 9. Oh, I'm just glossing over these
no,
awful jokes.
I'm with you though. Like I'm
But
excited
I'm just
for
excited
the future.
to see the future of what happens next because I know the story is like I know what happens. I'm just so excited to see what happens next. Like with the 9 Kings of Men, how did they become the Nazgul, and how do you see the Witch King? And my favorite,
Oh, the Witch
fucking-
King! I cannot
my
fucking
favorite
wait.
fucking thing of Return of the King was I Am No Man because I can
Oh,
go
hell yeah.
on and on about the context of that scene and how they're missing some context from the books.
And
Yeah.
honestly, I would
But
love to
she's
hear
just-
it.
Yeah, because oh my god, I could
But-
just go on all fucking day about
the
how
Nazgul.
the context
Definitely.
of that scene when when she's just like I am no man. Boom.
That rules so hard.
Yes. That is my favorite scene.
But-
so I'm kind of so stoked to see that.
all that, and then
happen.
like also like you're right, seeing how man falls to become like basically they're like the headhunters for Sauron. Like how does that fucking happen?
yeah.
At a time where, obviously we know Sauron's more powerful than man, but man at that point in the lore is like fucking like
yeah.
king swinging dick,
Because
right?
it's
Like,
just how the corruption of everything happens.
I mean, hate to like make it real, and I'm not going to go full Q because somebody has already done that for me. But honestly, doesn't that make this story so timeless that we are looking at like the corruptibility of man
Yeah.
always?
Yeah.
And how
forever and ever. That's a timeless story.
Well, how many of your heroes have you seen become a fucking Nazgul? And it's like so sad to
You
watch
either-
someone that you love
But also,
You
see,
either die the hero or
or
you
become a
be the villain.
Nazgul.
Or become a Nazgul.
Exactly.
And then you've
That's what
got
I'm saying.
and then you've got Awen, people like, the Hope, and everybody's come like, boom,
Yeah,
lop off
exactly.
your fucking head because he was, yeah. I
but
could-
even on the same end, like you've got the good aspect of it. The I am good, whatever.
That was rough.
That,
That was
like
so
no,
I
the,
am
the,
Groot,
the
it
Elven
hurt me.
Brigade
Yeah,
that
that was
actually
bad.
are standing for like the good side of things are fallible, make mistakes. I think that is one of the things that's so important about this conversation is that like even though the good side is like the way to go, it still kind of sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's absolute good. It's like as good as you would think you could get.
Yeah.
it's-
And I think that's like a whole thing with the end of the series because you see Gandalf saying like, I am good. And then also Galadriel kind of saying like, I'm not going to fall for this shit. It's just, even though the temptation is right
She's like,
there.
I've dated a fuckball before. I'm not
I
going
know
to do it
this
again.
bullshit. Yeah.
Teleport, he's not that bad. Yeah, so it's just, it's just seeing how, like, and that's what Nori says to him is like, you are good. It's the choices that you make. You have the choice to be good. That's, you are choosing to be good. And that's when he says, like, I am good.
Yeah, that's.
So it's just about the
He said that.
choices that you make.
I like the moment where Gandalf like makes all the trees surround all of the Harfoots to protect them from evil, and then he's like, "We are good."
Yeah.
And
Oh God. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I love how that also references that personal conversation they had on the side of the mountain where she talks about perils, and he's like, I am peril. Oh no. And she's like, no, you're good. Like all that to me when I heard that, even though it was fucking rough at the timing and that's immediately what I thought of was the
Yeah.
reference to that conversation because
it wasn't like a yell line. Like if
No,
he
but
could
it
have,
was-
honestly, if he had just done the thing and not said anything, and then whispered afterwards, like, "I am good," that would have played better than
That
him.
would have totally been
I
great.
am
To himself
good.
kind
Yeah,
of
to
thing?
himself.
Yeah.
That would have played better than the
Yeah.
I am
I think they were
good."
trying to mimic the "you shall not pass."
Listen,
I'm
I'm
like,
sorry.
no,
It
that's
didn't
not.
work.
You're not that level yet,
Didn't
bro.
work.
Stop it. Stop it.
You need like several level ups.
Yeah, exactly.
At
Like,
least a Balrog.
We're
like,
not.
come on.
We're not
ain't no
doing
shit.
fetch. Like we're not. We're not doing.
Not
I am
making
good.
fetch happen.
Like,
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, I just felt like they were trying. That was totally a pandering
Yeah.
line. At that, the way that was delivered, it was like, oh, it was terrible.
And that is one thing I would say, like, one negative thing I have to say about the show is that the writing was a little clunky.
yeah.
And they
Yeah.
are sometimes trying to make too many callbacks to the Lord of the Rings. But otherwise, I think it was fun. It was enjoyable.
it was a good show.
Yeah.
I think that the writers realized during this process, and part of this it started during COVID. I think that during this process, they realized the grand scope of what they were trying to attack, and I truly believe that going into the next season, I think we'll see the show like really coming to a fruition of like there's no like wasted scenes, there's no wasted dialogue. I think when I see 8 episodes, I expect no filler. I expect consistent because it's only 8 episodes.
All killer.
If it's 12 episodes, yeah, all killer. If it's 12 episodes, okay, I expect a filler. If it's 8, I'm like, no, fuck that. I want bam, 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 bam. And I literally think with season 2, we're going to get nonstop fucking, badassery
And
across the storylines.
I would tend to agree completely because one of the things that maybe turned some people off to this first season is what's going to set up the second season to be so badass is that there's a lot of heavy lifting. It's a lot of conversations about this is where people are, this is who, where, this is what's
it
going
was
on.
this
Yes.
grand scheme.
It's a
grand
lot of
scope.
setup. It's a ton of
Yeah.
setup. So the second season is going to have that established so we can just kind of like hit the ground running. And some of the best sequels take advantage of that not being that it's all established in the first
No more
movie.
story building.
Yeah,
No more storyboarding.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Because I think you have to do like a lot of story building. But, like going back to, we've made so many Q jokes, but that's a thing that I think is just such an important thing right now and one of the overarching things of the series is, it's a line Gandalf says to Frodo in Fellowship is, it's not, we're living in dark times, but it's the thing that you choose, to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That was
That's
a theme through the whole
basically-
series.
Yeah, that's
This
the
is season
thing
1,
for
the whole theme.
series.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing.
There's something
And
poetic about us recording this before the midterm elections.
tomorrow.
like the
Like
night
literally
before.
an hour before the
tomorrow,
day
yeah.
of the election.
Yeah.
yeah. But it's just, it feels like
Oh.
it does have that theme where it's like, yes, there are things. And then you see like, things like small people like hobbits, who make such a huge difference at the end.
Aw.
So I think, yeah, it's just, because like at the end, it's a hobbit who throws if you want to get technical about it, it's Gollum.
Who was a hobbit.
Yeah.
He was a hobbit.
River
He
Still
was
a fucking hobbit.
at one
Yeah,
point
River Hobbit.
until
Still a
the
hobbit.
ring corrupted him. So
Yep.
it's just so much, corruption, things men falling, but it just has such a beautiful overarching thing is that out of darkness, so much light. You see the light that comes. And then, just people, even just small creatures as hobbits can make such a huge difference.
Yep.
So I think that's why I've loved the story so much, like everything that he's done.
Yep. I completely agree. This is where I get back to what I was saying before is that like this is not my genre. None of this is my genre. I am very much a human interest story. I am the resident mush of GUI. I've just self-appointed. I'm fine with it. But the thing about it is, okay, so real quick, one way that I kind of like live my life is there's so much bullshit surrounding us and there's so much that we just like instinctually feel. And I think one thing that gets me through the day is I heard this thing a million years ago where the first thing that you think is what you've been conditioned to think. The second thing that you think is who you are. So if your first instinct is to judge or to make an impression about somebody, that's just what you've been conditioned to think because that's the way that the world works. And there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of hatred. But the second thing that you think is really like what makes you a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you lean into it or if you lean against it. And I think that that's like where we land with Galadriel in this, is that she definitely has the instinct to be like, I have the power. I could do it. I could corrupt. And what I think is really cool about this story is that I will always say that Sam is the best character ever written.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Oh God.
And Sam seems really perfect, like from the surface, but he is not understanding at all what Frodo is going through the whole time. And he makes a lot of like base judgments and is just fully like, I don't fucking get it. Like, what are you doing? But his second instinct is always to help. And that's who he is.
I think his second instinct is always to trust. He trusts Frodo.
To trust, yeah.
Yeah.
But he trusts the relationship. Like, he knows what he's supposed to be doing, and he does it. And that's what makes him the hero of the whole thing. Yeah,
and
he's the hero.
To touch back on that too, I would say that we see the first impression versus actually, what you've been taught or experience versus like what makes you. We act, I'm going to bring the Ents back, but like when they first enter the woods, he picks him up and is like, Hobbit? Like, they've never heard of a Hobbit. And this also touches to your statement about this race is actually who saves the day. It's a race that people don't even know about.
Yep.
And all people think about is this is orc tomfoolery. This is orc tricks. And then the second thought is like, no, you are you're good people. And then they like follow into battle at Saruman's castle. Yeah. Right. But it follows through everybody when they find out what a Hobbit is. They don't trust it. And then their second thought,
because they're too pure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then their second thought is like, oh no, this is okay. We need to follow this motherfucker.
It's legit.
Yeah. So.
And that's why I love Sam so much, is because he was the one ring bearer who was never corrupted.
Nope.
Yeah.
Never.
That's why he's so pure.
Yep.
I love it. Middle Earth is so fucked that the person that's nice, everybody's like, I'll follow you into war. Like, the Ents are like, yeah, these guys seem cool. Like, I'll follow you into war. Like, the Hobbits are nice, and Gandalf's like, here's the most powerful thing in the world. Good luck. Like, even in this, the dwarves are ruled by like the prince or whatever, being like, I mean, this elf's a pretty good dude. Like I don't want his people to die.
Yep.
Like, fucking, I mean, he's pretty nice. So that's the be all of Middle Earth, is just like, if you're a good dude, people will fucking go to war for you. Is what I've learned from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, 100%.
But on that, we are at the tail end. We have one last little bit to do before we are complete. We have some people's favorite, some people's least favorite thing on the show. We're talking about making a drunken scene.
Making a drunken scene.
All right, so I put it on our group text, and some monitors as well. We've got 2 scenes from Rings of Power. Actually, thank you to the nerds that update IMDb's quotes for doing this for us. The first one is from Theo and Galadriel.
Oh, such a good scene.
I'll do Theo.
Do you have a Galadriel?
I'll do Galadriel.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll do one of the Harefoots.
No, Galadriel's like final bout in this is fucking awesome.
All right, cool. And then you and I are gonna do the Harfoot. Harfoot. So starting with Theo, whenever you're ready.
I've killed orcs before, you know.
Yeah, well, when I was your age, there was no such thing as orcs.
And now, how many have you killed?
Many.
Good.
I would not use such words.
Why not?
It darkens the heart to call dark deeds good. It gives place for evil to thrive inside of us. Every war is fought both without and within. Of that, every soldier must be mindful.
Oh, shit.
Duh.
That was improv.
Boy, they do talk pretty in the Middle Earth.
Oh, fuck me up.
As beautiful as that scene was, like, it also, like, I like that it was bratty. I think that was very, very good.
All right, now we're gonna be playing the characters that would be in the back tent area of Coachella, the Harfoots.
The poppy and the nori.
Yeah,
oh.
Selling flowers and mushrooms to everybody.
And homemade soap.
And homemade soap.
Homemade soap.
Yeah. So, which one are you gonna be?
I'll do Nori.
Nori, I'll be Poppy.
Nori.
So here we go. What sense is it sticking your neck out for him any more than you already have?
There's head sense and Poppy, and there's heart sense.
Heart sense. There's common sense and nonsense. And if you're all out the first, then you can borrow some of mine.
Rather than borrow some stairchairs out of that book instead, and you're gonna help me, or would you rather sip to Mom that it was you who put fireweed into your tomb cream?
I'm going to edit that later, and it's just going to be a bunch of...
Are you doing like a Minnesota thing?
I don't need
You were
Oh,
doing like...
we have not. No one. No,
You-
we have not dared to try that yet.
You
Oh,
went
I
like
love that.
slightly
I haven't
like
done that.
Appalachian
man, next
Southern
time I'm on.
into Scottish. Like
Gotta get the OA.
Well, that's
You know,
like,
hey.
that's all my...
Dude,
Yeah, yeah.
one of us, I don't care who does it. One of these, we have to do William H. Mason from Fargo.
Nice.
Or you know,
Oh,
like it's
oh,
just
definitely.
Fucking, oh
Yeah.
God.
Like I
Oh
said,
boy.
Alright.
Oh, that's a
Scottish,
doozy.
Appalachian,
This is-
that is
oh.
all my hair.
That scared the
Clearly.
dickens out of me. Oh, that darkness. Oh boy.
imprisoning me. All that I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolute Morgoth.
Oh my
I didn't
god.
cry this episode.
It's a new thing on GUI that Audrey did not cry at the
I
end.
did not cry
Yeah.
this episode.
Yay! Yay!
Yeah.
Yay.
Last episode, yeah, that was an emotional
That-
wreck.
Yeah, that got really emotional. So on that note, thank you so much for sticking around for this. That was a really fun episode talking about Rings of Power. Rings of Power. Yes, it has some. It's a little slow. It's a lot, but I'm really excited what it's setting
Learning
up.
curves.
And
it had learning curves.
If
It
I
did.
remember correctly, it's already been booked for 5 seasons. So I'm really excited
Wow,
to see.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're like.
Five?
Yeah, they committed to 5 seasons. So
That's what I'm
like,
saying. Like, I don't see how season 2 is not going to fucking just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in.
Like-
I'm fucking in.
If I live long enough to
Yeah.
see 5 seasons,
No shit.
when's that gonna be?
But let's see how this goes.
Every
I
year,
had a really good time.
Every 2 years?
I'm really excited kind of where the direction's going with everything, and I hope you guys are too listening. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the Creep-A-Zoids for the intro and outro of this episode with Dead by Dawn. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe, all the things you do for podcasts, and check out GUIPodcast.com for all the other shows in the network. We'll find you next time for another episode. I'm Mike the Hobbit.
I'm Lowdown.
I'm sorry, Harfoot.
Oh, God.
I'm Mike
Harefoot?
Mike the Harefoot. And what?
I said I was low down until
Yeah,
you got stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Uh-huh.
Join us or die.
Shut the fuck up, Harfoot.
Join us or die, join us or die, or I will swallow your soul.
GUIPodcast.com.